We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals.
What happens when you disrupt the bioelectrical homeostasis of humans? Bad stuff. Okay, all right. And everybody who has ever had problems sleeping knows that your circadian rhythms are a huge component of getting good sleep. And the first thing we see in the biofield physiology as a viable scientific discipline is neuronal response and circadian rhythmicity. Yeah, welcome to your aura. Welcome to your biofield. Now, 100 years ago, we knew all about the biofield. How do we know for sure? Anthropology. People spoke about it, but it was all spiritism and whacked out woo-woo. And then we got a bunch of drugs, a lot of war, rip your bra off and go to war some more, big divide in the country. You're not going to be cleansing sensors out of you. They don't work that way. It's not going to happen. They're made of your own biology. And the sooner you deal with that, the better off you're going to be, because you're still not understanding that you're the tower, you're the node, you're the network, and the signal comes from within, not without. It's a combination. And then the whole off-grid line.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. That's the mantra here. Thanks for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube for a subject that is a little challenging to tackle for many. Very complex, and something that on and off I've been researching for the last years. And I think it's just time to keep diving into this. Now, let's take a deep breath. As always, anything that you approach with fear breeds fear, and that's not what we want to do. Awareness, information, empowerment. So let's dive into it. What we're going to talk about here is something that I call field hacking. And for that, we need to understand certain things that are still not talked about very widely. We're going to dive today more into the work of a whistleblower, a self-described whistleblower called Sabrina Wallace. Many of you have seen her videos, her many videos and explanations and deep dives. A thorough researcher who she says she comes from the field and she's worked in that field. And what I find is that her findings, her research into the hacking of the body, the biofield, how the technologies exactly operate, who operates them, what they're doing exactly, and what we can do about it, all those things are very thoroughly researched. What I see as a challenge is for someone who is simply, for the first time, approaching this subject or getting confronted with it, it seems incredibly overwhelming. So the idea is to break it down to a language that is accessible to those who are not tech savvy, and that's not their jargon and not their world, but they can still now access the information. And that's an attempt. I'm not saying we're successful. I'm not saying it's the best that we, it's the best work out there, but we're trying to break it down so it's easier to wrap our non-techie minds around it. All right. So basically, we got to start at the beginning, and what Sabrina so often talks about is understanding who we really are and how much has been hidden from us. And of course, we all know that a lot of knowledge, wisdom has been hidden from us, and that is especially not mentioned or talked about in the mainstream. And if you think about one of the most important things is the vibe or energy as we describe it in everyday life. Oh, he or she gives off a vibe, or, I got that energy from that person. What does that even mean? Well, I think we're oftentimes thinking it's a spiritual concept, but it's really a anatomical concept. And that is a hidden organ that's not really talked about a lot on purpose. And most people have no idea that they carry this hidden body part. It's not taught in school. Mainstream science doesn't want to acknowledge it. Your doctor's not going to talk about it. Maybe some, but the vast majority won't. And it is what in spiritual circles is called the aura, but it's an electromagnetic field and should be viewed as a part of your body because it directly attaches to your body. In the best scenario, you as the origin of that aura, have conscious influence over it and control over it. Now, that's not the case for most people. Most people don't even know it exists, or if they do know it exists, they don't really know much about it, and they especially don't look at it through the lens of, hey, this is a part of me. This is a physical organ. However, it is. Think about it this way. You're going to say, well, Jean, all the other organs I can see, when you cut me open, you can see my heart, my liver, my lungs, and all that stuff. So this can't be a physical organ if we don't see it. Well, consider that our ability to see light is basically at zero. So all of the stuff that's out there, we see a minuscule, a negligible, tiny little bandwidth. 0.001% or something like that. So we're basically blind. So the fact that most people, some can see auras, and if you train yourself, you can start seeing that. But the fact that most people don't see it doesn't mean jack shit. It doesn't mean anything about the existence. We can't see infrared, the lights that go through. We can't see all the other stuff, but it's still there. So it exists. It's real. And the problem is it's being hacked and has been hacked. This is a measurable part of our body. It naturally creates this electromagnetic field. And the sort of the control interest groups, the groups in the world that seek to continue and expand their control over us, have built technology around it. Now, the more I study all of this and AI and all of the technology, the more I realize that most likely these technologies are being reverse engineered, and we are sort of reverse engineering what has been here for a very long time and beginning to comprehend it on deeper levels. But that's for another day. This field, this aura, this biofield that is part of you extends out from your body a few feet. It connects to everything. It's used for signal transmission, real-time surveillance, and even behavior control. It's been studied and weaponized for decades. In 2005, they began installing permanent biosensors in the population. These interact with your biofield, turning your body into a living node in a wireless network. Bluetooth, Zigbee, 6, the 6 thing. And it's all interfacing directly with your tissue. Now, all of this is the work that we're discussing here of one woman. We're going to introduce her in sort of a little bit of a bio way in a moment, because most people don't know a lot about her. But we were never supposed these things. We were simply never supposed to be aware of our biofield and what it means and how important it is. So she's been talking about this a lot. As I said, you might have seen her. Her name's Sabrina Wallace. And according to Sabrina Wallace, this is her story in a nutshell. She's a self-described whistleblower born into the deepest layers of the military-industrial complex. So she's not somebody who read about black projects. She was born into them, according to her. And her parents were involved in top secret programs like Project Salus in the 1960s and working in electromagnetic warfare and human augmentation and such fields that are not very well known to the public. So multi-generational Black Ops lineage. Her family spans OSS, NSA, Edgewood Arsenal, SAP level military projects. So according to her, this includes work with electromagnetic drones, early surveillance networks, and classified vehicle programs tied to Man in Black and underground tech. Now, she used to be a network specialist. She worked with companies like High Speed Access Corporation, I think was later purchased by Charter Communications. And she was working with high-level military-grade infrastructure and was one of the only people in her state trained to operate certain systems. I think she started putting together what these systems were actually meant to do and create. And according to her, after questioning and exposing these things, she was basically labeled disabled, and the disability is supposedly telepathy, and it has been on disability since and sort of pushed away, and she's been blowing the whistle since and educating people. I want to say a lot of work has gone into it, clearly. What is the tech behind the system as Sabrina Wallace exposes it? I think the most important statement that we have to sort of accept, even if it's painful, is that our bodies most likely, and according to her, are already part of the internet and have been for a while. She says since 2005, biosensors have been quietly embedded across the population. These aren't wearables, they're permanent, like wireless, and operate without our awareness. They link your tissue, my tissue, everyone's tissue, to networks using Bluetooth, Zigbee, and other standards. Basically, our field is a life data node. Now, if this is something you hear for the first time, this might be shocking. But let's go back. Let's go back to what we have seen in movies since the 60s. What was discussed in James Bond movies, and then it was this famous, remember maybe the BBC aired it, called The Newsbenders, which was sort of a play, but really it exposed how these technologies were already in use back then. And like I said, probably earlier than that. However, there's a difference between having the ability to secretly implant something into somebody's body and then communicate with that implant and manipulate the body, or to have an entire worldwide network that is the infrastructure that allows for this to happen on a mass scale unbeknownst to the people. And that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the technical capability. I mean, to question whether something like that exists, I don't know why we would question that. They hacked every single organ and every single organism in our body. They know how to hack the genetics. They know how to hack the brain. They know how to hack the organs. If we can accept the fact that our aura, our biofield, is an organ just like that, why would we think that they didn't hack into that? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense, right? So accepting that the technology is real, for me, is a no-brainer. What is a little challenging for people is just to see how far it's already gone and how big the infrastructure already is that's using it. Technologies like, you might have heard of this, the body area network and personal area networks. They route data through your body using its natural electrical conductivity. Your field is used for both surveillance and signal transmission. And once again, you can go and look up patents that have been filed for by companies like Microsoft, who, through understanding the principles, have filed for patents that allow them to mine cryptocurrency through the energy production of the body. How would you do that if you didn't hack into the body and connect that body to the network and transfer that energy that's required for the mining? And those are patents on file. Like, this is not, but what is important to note, and we're going to link to all her links it's in the video description, that all the things that Sabrina Wallace puts out there, she links back to official government website, official government programs, of manuals and handbooks from the medical field, from the biomedical field. So very well researched, and there's a layer of evidence. Where I think it gets more where it's a little different is how she interprets the data that she reads. That might not be the same as most others do, right? So what we're talking about here is, of course, what's being rolled out now, and you're going to hear a lot about it after the five, the five network rollout that we had in 2020 and all the accompanying problems with that. The 6 is now rolling out. We are doing our best to get someone on the show here that was part or that was exposed to a trial, supposedly in Austin, Texas last year, where they tried out the 6 frequency bandwidth with some catastrophic results, supposedly. So we're going to see if we can get that person on the show. We're working on it. So this new bandwidth of frequencies, which is called the 6, and you know which letter, introduces machine-to-machine systems, no humans required. Drone, vehicles, devices are autonomously linked through your biofield in real time, right? Your DNA and heartbeat can literally act as routing signatures. I know, but here we are. We need awareness. We need knowledge around this. But the problem is it's not just being used, your field and you as a node in this network. Your field is also being used because emotional states, thoughts, and physiological responses can be influenced and harvested through remote frequency interaction. And we're going to get into that, which is why so many people are having their randomest experiences. And you can talk about mood swings, you can talk about having a bad day or bad sleep and all of that. But there is now so much evidence that there are influences that are so fast and so pointed that we have to know that it's not just the EMF itself that our body reacts to, but it is targeted. It is targeted. These are targeted attacks and influences on specific organisms and biofields. So what I would encourage you to do is take screenshots, right? Write down all these names of the technologies that are being used and go and research the validity, go and research the claims made, go and do literally dive into it. You need this knowledge because the more that we have of it, the better we can positively react to this, influence ourselves positively, and we're going to get to the solutions towards the end of the show. But it's the Bluetooth, Zigbee network, 6-low WPAN allows internet protocols over low energy wireless networks. WAN and the Internet of Things connects your body data to cloud-based AI systems. AI signal processing learns how to respond to your biosignature and behavior in real time, right? So I think that AI signal processing, for example, is already being used and has been used on simple, bless you, my love, has already been used on social media apps, for example. Your phone takes an image of an infrared image of your eyes, of your iris, of every few seconds. Then you're holding it in your hand, and it might already be able to read biodata that it gets from that. Of course, wearables. And I think that, for example, social media companies and their algorithms are responding greatly to your biosignals that they are receiving and changing what you're seeing according to that, right? So in observation, I would say empirical evidence is here, but I'm 100% certain that's actually what's happening. And this is the framework of the Internet of Bodies, which, by the way, is completely openly talked about. The Internet of Everything, the IOE. It's only that it's usually being discussed as a future framework and not as a present reality. So our body is a router, and it's being managed by autonomous systems designed to control, track, and influence your biology. And this is also why, the true measure of tyranny is not how many boots you can put in the streets anymore. It's not how many heavily armed military, paramilitary style groups you can put in the streets to physically beat and control people. That's not where we are anymore. And that's probably, aside from show of force, that's not what's going to happen much longer. It's literally the pacification and complete control of our biofield and our behaviors through these technologies. So this is what Sabrina calls permanent integration. So with biosensors, nanomaterials, electromagnetic resonance, your body has become a functioning node in a digital grid. Like I said, it's no longer external. Your heartbeat, your emotional shifts, even your thoughts are picked up via biofield sensors and analyzed through AI signal processing. Yeah, there is a level of speechlessness every time that I think about these things, but there's also a level of a deeper layer of understanding every time that I research these things. Internet of bodies. And the important piece of this is the biodigital convergence, which you could call transhumanism, which you could call the idea, where the Elons of the world and the Bill Gateses and all the others have come out multiple times and say, well, it's kind of inevitable. We are going to merge at some time. But if we reverse engineer their language, inevitability, they're basically saying it's happening. What they didn't say is it already happened. And it happened in a way where you didn't sign a consent form, at least not to your knowledge. And it happened in a way where you never made a conscious choice about it. But maybe you and I, and we all accepted things into our lives that included those things, and we didn't know. Biological systems and digital systems are now fused and had been fused, and you've been cloud linked without your consent since as far back as the 1990s. Who even knew what a digital cloud was in the 1990s, let alone that we were linked to it? Each body emits a unique electromagnetic frequency based on your DNA, and this is used as a biological digital ID in military-grade surveillance and weapons system. Now, all of these things have come out in some ways before, too. I know that in the surveillance world, a number of years back, it has come out that our heartbeat, for example, has just as unique a signature as our retina and as our fingerprints do, and that they have technology that can not only measure the heartbeat through walls, but actually identify you if they have your heartbeat on file, if you will. So like they would have your fingerprint or your retina scan. So if you've ever been to the doctor and they've measured your heartbeat, and you don't know what kind of technology recorded that specific identity of the heartbeat, if they have that on file, they can identify you just by your heartbeat. So think again whether they had, for years tried to find a guy called Osama bin Laden in the caves of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And think of these stories while you sort of walk with what the technologies really are, and just how theatrical and fake all the stories are that we're being fed. Let me get this other slide up here. Here we go. So this is the thing. Basically her findings are, Sabrina's findings are that we don't need to opt into the system. It's happening automatically. But given that what I know about our necessity to consent to something, whether consciously or subconsciously, but we need to make the choice, I think it's included. It's somewhere included in some fine print, in some context. Our consent to these things is somehow included. So yeah, biodigital convergence is listed in, like I said, in DARPA reports, military white papers, global research programs. There's multiple, and you should look into all of these, by the way, to see that these things are, as always, when they say this is what we're going to do, this is the future, it means they've already done it. They're just now rolling it out officially. The problem is so often that even when you start a conversation talking about the aura or the biofield, now there's a number of people within the spiritual community and within the holistic healing and medical communities who are very aware of it and working with it. But the vast majority, says, well, this is some spiritual bullshit, don't talk about the aura and the colors of the aura and whatnot. And so when that is dismissed, it's like saying, well, bullshit, liver. What are you talking about, liver? Liver doesn't exist. That's some spiritual stuff. Although the spirit goes through the liver, but the truth is that we need to take all this knowledge out of the woo-woo space and make it accessible and make the research accessible to everyday people so they realize this whole part of themselves has been hidden from themselves. These things happen in real time, by the way. That is so often the problem. And I've never said this publicly, but I have I assume that it is and has been happening here too, and I felt days where, or literally had moments where a thought would pop into my head. And thankfully I've been very aware of these things for a long time. So a thought would pop into my head and I would entertain it for about 5 to 10 seconds and then immediately ask myself, hold on, where's this coming from? This isn't my thought. This whole train of thinking isn't my thinking. I could sort of identify it as a artificial shift. And then there's sort of a, if you will, a spiritual technique where you reject anything that is inauthentic and not yours. And so these things have happened, and I know they're happening to you guys. I know we're getting emails about this a lot of times. So, So through frequency entrainment and electromagnetic field manipulation, your nervous system can be subtly hijacked. What you believe to be your own thoughts or feelings may in fact be engineered responses. This is, of course, what, when you go back to the 50s and 60s, Madison Avenue, those were the big, when the marketing and advertisement departments grew like crazy, and Madison Avenue became a synonym for, the best marketing in the world, just like Wall Street became a synonym for the best financial and stock market activity in the world. This was really it was an extended arm of all the research that had been done. And they were using these marketing agencies and the data and the exploration to mass test a lot of their not just technologies, but tactics. So, as I've said before, who we are, how we think, how we operate, our biology, our physiology, our spirituality, all of this is the most studied field out there. They know so much more about you than you do. You can't even imagine it in terms of how you function. And so that's what they've been working on, causing or suppressing pain, chronic fatigue, headaches, emotional instability. This can be remotely triggered. And as a matter of fact, when you study the bandwidth of frequencies that is being used in the networks, that scientists and researchers have explained to us before these networks were rolled out what these frequencies were used for before and why they were always deemed military grade and not for civilian use. Because they described how they subtly or not so subtly affect the body's ability to, for example, absorb oxygen, then how they can cause symptoms like depression and anxiety through frequency. Think about it. How do you get 70% of the population on antidepressants? Maybe that's how you do it. I'm just saying. So this is just a small, sort of a short overview of what is happening. Sabrina Wallace's work is extensive. Let me take this off here for just a moment. It's kind of a distraction, isn't it? Or not. Her work is really, really extensive. And we need and there's others who have joined sort of her efforts, that are on various platforms doing fantastic work. But what we need is an army of researchers on various levels. So you need the deep level researchers that do what she does, sort of the pioneer stuff. Then you need people who completely understand what she does and the research that she's come up with, and start translating it into plain English so more people can understand it. That can then help people translate it into other languages without losing the integrity of the information. That's what a really good meme does, right? The best meme creators have to really understand the field that they do the memes about, because a meme is a tiny but to the point essence and funny portrait of a big subject. And that's what we need to do here. This needs to become common knowledge, and it needs layers of people working on this. So I would encourage you, go to the link description, share this with people, share Sabrina's videos, do more research on it, join the work. But it is important that we not only show the problem is real, very, very real, but also the solutions and what we can do about it. And because that's the empowerment part. So first off, you need to acknowledge that the biofield, the aura, is part of you, and learn to feel it. You can do that with meditation. You can do that with practices. It's really acknowledging it and accepting it into your being as a part of you, right? So it's as real as your organs, and you need to realize that. Step 2, learn to work with it. How does it respond? How does your field respond to breath, intention, prayer, meditation? And you can observe that. Let's say you're in a nervous, anxious state. Observe the people that come into your field, that step into you. They react to that. They can sense that. But then when you work with the field and when you harmonize it through breath work and intention and prayer, see how people that step into your field react to that. They react to the peace that you emit. That is a practice. Learn to do that. And if you listen to Sabrina, she has some techniques that she shares about how to do that. Step 3, strengthen your sovereign signal. When you work on your inner balance and your coherence and your biofield coherence, which is a direct reflection, you are creating, first off, you're sensing intrusion much quicker, and you can almost shield it off before it goes deeper, right? You can sense where you're supposed to be, not supposed to be. Should you go there or not go there? If you go there, how should you protect yourself? All of those things. This becomes part of you. A sovereign signal means that you 24/7 take full responsibility for your entire being and everything that includes. With fear, you're always going to have an opening. People that have studied auras of addicts, of violent people, of depressed people, what they always find is holes in the aura where that energy can attach, where even darker entities can attach. But now let's look at these signals and these frequencies and these technologies as dark entities. Let's not let them attach themselves to us. Detox from digital overexposure. Become, and this is something we all need to constantly be aware of, become very conscious when you use it. Turn off your Wi-Fi at night if you use it. If you can, hardwire your house closer to something that's more Ethernet, and make sure that you get that as little of that frequency as possible, so your body can rest, you can become more peaceful. I mean, that's a given. Inner healing, and we talk about this so much. Balance is, it's hard to create and impossible to keep if you don't have if you don't do the inner work and the inner healing. from pains, traumas, addictions, which are all connected, by the way, all kinds of disturbances that came from your past. So the healing is incredibly important. It's like the fundamental, and we talk about it a lot. And learn to speak truth without fear. This entire system is designed because there's a big why. It's designed to control us, to keep us quiet, to make us conform, and never even be able to rebel. But if you are fearless, then you speak your truth and the truth fearlessly. And this is incredibly important. And it also shows others, that it is okay to do it. This is another one, a big one. Get right with the Creator, which is not in a religious way, not in some prescribed way, but in your own way. Reconnect with the prime Creator, with that consciousness, with the spirit of that. We have to ultimately come to the realization that nothing can be stronger than that, right? None of these technologies, I mean, if you are who you were designed to be on all levels, nothing can fuck with you. But here's the flip side. Here's the other side of the coin. We are battling against smaller and bigger influences every day that try to get us in a lower state so we can be controlled. So basically, only our lower states, and when we're in a lower state and when our body's in a lower state, can we really be controlled. This is the reason why they do it. And this is the reason why we say we need to become the best possible version of ourselves, because we rise above these control systems, even if they're sophisticated technology. Nothing is as high and free and powerful as we are at our truest expression. So this is why I said from the get-go, this is not to instill fear in anyone. But if we don't have the awareness, we simply don't know what we're dealing with. And you can't solve a problem that you don't even know exists, right? So that's why. So our true spiritual connection, which goes beyond all the religious crap and bullshit and programming, that's the real thing. That's what's so important. And this is the foundation of real freedom. It's not we don't have to escape anything. We don't have to run away from anything. We don't have to become fugitives in our own lives and in our own world. We just have to become freaking untouchable by these psychopaths and realize that all their efforts, all their technologies eventually won't be able to touch us any longer. And that's what scares the bejesus out of them, by the way. So yeah, we're going to continue to dive deeper, but there's a lot to this. There's an incredible amount of details. And we have to know that fundamentally, the biggest control systems were always going to come through the field of medicine. That's where, like, if you look at the field of medicine, the serpent's domain, then this is where all the control systems, the bad stuff really is pushed through. And so we have to free ourselves from the mainstream medical system, which was designed not to make us healthier, better. And that's a stretch, because we aren't healthier or better. Every year that this bullshit system has been in place, we've gotten sicker and worse every single year. And so we can't rely on some, bullshit story about politicians that are going to fix it. It's like the fairy tale. That's the unicorn and rainbow fairy tale. We have to sovereignize ourselves from these systems and just take care and responsibility for our own health, and find those amazing practitioners that are out there, find those amazing healers that are out there, and real doctors that are seeing through it, and that are actually tapping into real knowledge, and then empower ourselves for healing. I'm not here to go and fight this system. That's completely obsolete. We have to sovereignize ourselves and free ourselves and just take responsibility for our own health. And all of these things point back. You can go the David Icke route, the Sabrina Wallace route, the inspired route. It doesn't really matter. Every real truth lover, freedom lover, will ultimately tell you the same thing. It's up to us. It's up to you. You are in control. You're in charge. You don't need to wait for anyone. You're your own savior. There's no one coming to fix this. And this is the most empowering message that we could possibly give you. So I'm going to close this by saying nothing is more joyous in life than taking a step every day to becoming the best possible version of yourself, not compared to anyone else, just compared to you yesterday, maybe. And if you can do one little thing that makes your experience in yourself a little better today, more power to you. And then the excuse killer. Do what you can with what you have where you are. No one is asking you to do something you can't do or you don't have. Just do what you can with what you have where you are. Start today. All right, my friends. Let us know what you found about this in the comments. If you found other great researchers, please share with others. If you are a great researcher and want to share more, please let us know. Put it in the comments, and we'll dive back into this soon. All right. Much love. Many blessings. Oh, before I forget it, I'm probably not supposed to say this, but I'm going to say it. So we had a conversation with our friends at FLFE, and there's a huge upgrade coming. Now, they're doing these upgrades all the time, but specifically in conjunction with our subject today, which, by the way, these folks are aware of all of it, right? They know these stories. They know this research. There's a huge upgrade coming that will support us in our endeavor to sovereignize our field and to be less or almost not impacted by these outer influences. Now, that is not the solution. It is a support system, a very good one, but it's not the solution. We are the solution. All right, my friends, if you want to check it out, go to highconsciousnessfield.com, give it a free trial. No credit card, no nothing. It's a wonderful support system. Have a blessed and wonderful day. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.
Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy. But most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.